With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to and during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
And the wolf is at your door. You're running so that's for sure. He already knows all about you. Cut you down, no matter by you. Now you better walk the line. Real life, real
Warning, this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast, may contain descriptions of acts of violence or that of a sexual nature and should be for people that are 18 years or older. Heed my warning, people. I do not get the facts of these cases off of the internet or from some television show. The facts I'm retelling you were presented to me by the victims of the crimes or the perpetrators who committed the crimes against the victims. My descriptions of the crime scenes, what I saw with my own 2 eyes. If you're going to get offended, please turn this podcast off now. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. As always, I'm your host, Woody Overton. And it has been a minute, and I intended to finish this weeks ago. Unfortunately, my father, it was just bad. And I got to be with him and he took the turn. For the last 3 weeks, I've been with my father and then with my mother and we buried him and everything else. But we're going to continue with the state versus Scott Peterson, Scorched, and hoping to finish it today. This case is just, it's exhausting, but again, it's scorched. It's exhausting and scorched on both sides. And you've heard me say it once. I'll say it 1,000 times. They better pray to God they don't get anyone else's DNA off that duct tape that was found on Laci. But I'm going to continue this. I want to thank each and every one of y'all for liking and listening and sharing and all that good podcaster shit. But my very first episode after Scorched is going to be called Confidential Informant. And it's an old school, real life, real crime, Woody Overton story, raw and unscripted. So you know that is coming back. All right. And let's just roll with it. So left you last, the Garagos, the defense attorney, has Scott's mom on the stand, and they're going through everything about Cub Scouts and school and blah, 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 and his relationship with his grandfather and the whole shebang, which does not take away from the fact that those jury members are sitting there and they've seen the autopsy photos. They've already found him guilty. of murder, the murder of Laci and his unborn son, Connor. And, I understand they're trying to put a human face to him. They're trying to say, oh, if you keep him alive, don't give him the death penalty. If you keep him alive, he could really do something special in prison. Well, fuck him. So, let's just continue with it. All right. So Garagos, interviewing Scott Peterson's mom, Jacqueline. So I'm going to say Garagos and then I'm going to say Peterson. And it won't be long and this testimony will be over. So Garagos says, we've heard some testimony from people about him wanting to work or being industrious. Is that always something that you and Lee tried to instill in him? Peterson, yes, my husband is like that. My husband can do 10 things in a day and I always try to catch up. And Scott is like that. He has a busy job, but if somebody needs something, he'll stop and help them and take care of his work later. He's just always been a nurturing, kind, loving person all through his life. In high school, he tutored the homeless in the evenings and came home and told me, Mom, those kids don't even have the shoes that fit them. Their backs are walked on and things. He got me and my friends and his getting shoes, and we gave the money to buy shoes for these kids. He just noticed these things, noticed their needs and wanted to help them. And because of my disease, I can't be exposed to colds or the flu. It could be fatal. I can't go there and do hands-on, and I can only financially help. And it gave me a way to help provide that I wanted to help. It made my husband and we're involved in St. Vincent de Paul and feeding the homeless. And it's all because of Scott really putting us into that. He's an optional young man, even if he's my son. I know he's not perfect. He was a normal kid, but he is genuinely a loving, caring, nurturing, kind, gentle person. Garagos. At some point, he announced to you at age 19 that he was going to support himself. Is that correct? Peterson. Yes. Garagos. And did he end up doing that? Peterson. Yes. He said, I'm 20 years old. I've been living off you long enough. I want to support myself and be on my own. And actually, we were hurt. We wondered what we'd done wrong because we loved having him around. It was fun having him around. Garagos. Is that about the same time that you moved to Morro Bay? Peterson. Yes, it was when we moved to Morro Bay and he was working. And he did well at the restaurant. He got good tips. And he met Laci. And Laci was struggling on her own. Her grandparents helped her pay her tuition, but I think that was part of it. He saw that she worked hard, and he wanted to work hard, and the two of them they not live with us, but through college, it was like we got to go to college with them. They came to do their laundry, and we cooked together. Laci and I like Martha Stewart, so I would always have the recipes. And she showed up on Mother's Day and planted me an herb garden one year. And Garagos. Would that have been the first year that you met Laci? Peterson. Yes. Garagos. Did the two of you hit it off right away? Peterson. Yes. I was still the mom, and Scott's mom, and she was a little careful around me. And I had to learn that anything I said, she was very sensitive to it. Like mother-in-laws can. No matter what you say, it could be different. But we liked all the same things. And we were interested. And we were both interested in Scott. And she adored Scott. Garagos. Did your relationship with Laci grow as her relationship with Scott grew? Peterson. Yes. She grew into a beautiful young woman. And the two of them were inseparable. We used to tease them about being joined at the hip. because they wouldn't. I mean, if he left her run down and do something, she went with him. They were just a perfect match. Here goes. Did they live close to where you and Lee lived up in Morro Bay? Peterson. Yes, about 10 minutes away. And we spent many times at their house with dinner and many times at our house. She'd call me to go to the movies with us. We went to symphonies together, and they kept us up on that through college. And my husband would go over to the campus just to have coffee with them, or we'd go to the auditorium where she was the manager and visit at work, and she would show us the plants and tell me what I needed to do. And she became like a daughter to us for 8 years. She was, Garagos. At a certain point, did she start calling you mom? Pearson. Yes, she did. She's the only one of my daughters-in-laws that called me mom, because she was so young when I met her. And the other kids call me Jackie and Dad. So the other ones picked it up. But because Scott called me mom, and she wrote me one day, she was comfortable with that. And she was happy. And she decided to do that. Here it goes. As the years went by, you would spend more and more time, I guess, getting to know both Scott and Laci's relationship. Pearson. Yes. I loved Laci as much as Sharon loved Scott. And we were both supportive of them. And it was just an equal thing. I think having her 8 years is like having, if you had a child 8 years, you couldn't love that child any less if you had them 20 years. They're in your home and they're part of you, and they become part of your family. Here it goes. You were looking forward, obviously, to the baby. Peterson. Yes, we all were. They tried 3 years to get pregnant. And originally, Laci made jobs. She didn't want any children because she thought she couldn't have any. And we all understood it. And one Thanksgiving, my grandkids were wrestling, and she said, "That's a good reason for birth control right over there." But nobody took it that away because we knew she would not be unkind. And over the years, she had some medical treatments and was able to, they talked about adoption. They wanted a baby. And when she got pregnant, we were all elated, thrilled. Garrus, you told me yesterday what this whole ordeal has been like for you. Can you describe for the jury what it's been like? Peterson, the whole process of going through? Garrus, you said you feel hollow at this point. Peterson, I do. My husband and I talk, and we feel like we're just shells in front of you, come in here every day like there's nothing left inside of us. We've mourned for Laci and Connor. We've seen Scott mourn for them. We lost him and them. And I really feel if you would take Scott away from us, they were like family. Laci and Connor and Scott. And it would be a whole family wiped off the whole face of the earth. It would be like Laci never existed because she was a woman with him, and she grew with him from 18 to 28. And it was a family member of ours, and we would lose a whole family. Both Sharon and I would lose a whole family. You know, it would be like they never existed. That it would be so unreasonable. Such a waste. It's irreversible. And he can do a lot of good things with his life, no matter what it is. He'll do it. And I beg you to consider that how he helps people and how he always has. And in this trial, you heard 1 month how he reacted to the loss of his wife and baby being ripped from him. The bizarre things he did because he didn't know what to do at 30 years old when all his work was taken away. He was stalked by the media and everybody twisted and turned and harassed by the police and painted as a devil in the public. He's not that. He's never been that. He's always been nurturing and kind and loving. Judge, let's get back to questions and answers, Mr. Garagos. Garagos, I have no further questions. Judge, any questions, Miss Flagler? Flagler, no questions, Your Honor. Judge, okay, Miss Peterson, thank you. Now, y'all, come on, man. You know, what mom would be moving if she get on a stand, but at all the other shit they presented, all the other stuff, they're still not touching the fact. Certainly he's not claiming responsibility for it. He's on trial for his life. You would think it would be like, oh, yeah, fuck yeah, I did it. Please don't kill me now. You're guilty already. But the defense finally rest on Thursday, December the 9th of 2004. So now the final argument for the people begins first. Okay. And then the defense is going to get to go and the prosecution will get to go one more time if they choose so. Now I'm just going to read this to you. There'll be no question and answer. And imagine this. This is it. This is the last shit you're going to hear before you go decide, Scott Peterson, whether you're going to put him to death or not. So Harris begins, gets up in front of the jury, says, 2 years ago today, the defendant, Scott Peterson, bought a boat and told Amber Fry that his wife was lost. Today is the 2-year anniversary of Laci becoming lost. Today is the 2-year anniversary of Scott's monstrous plan to take his wife, murder her, and dump her body in the bay. Today is the 2-year anniversary of that. The plan was for his wife's body to be dumped in the bay, a watery grave, and never to be found, never to be laid to rest. The ripples from that water have spread far and wide, and they have spread to us. And that's why we're here today. We are here to decide what is the just, is the appropriate punishment for Scott Peterson for the murder of his wife and son. A decision that you all agreed that you could do. Before I start talking about the instructions, I want to talk about your task here. Let's face it. That is a very hard decision. You have a tough job in front of you. But when you think about this tough job that you have to do, let's be clear about one thing. Death is worse than life. So if you hear an argument that life is far worse, it's not. Because you have life and the defendant gets to sit in a cell, he's alive. He gets to read books. He gets to write letters. He gets to have letters. He gets to read books along with people on the outside. All things that Laci and Connor would have loved to have had. All things that Laci's family would love to be able to share with Laci and Connor. So when we start from that point, remember, death is the worst punishment. It is worse than life. The instructions that you see up there, weighing the various circumstances, those are instructions the judge has read once. He's going to read them to you again. You determine under the relevant evidence which penalty is justified and appropriate by considering the totality of the aggravating circumstances with the totality of the mitigating circumstances. There's a scale up there because it's a symbol. It's a symbol of the weighing process that you're going to be going through. It's a weighing process of you deciding. Talk to you a little bit more about that in a few minutes. The balance of good and the bad, the weighing process. It's not a mechanical process. It's not. You put one thing on one side and one thing on the other. Whichever is the heavier one is the one with the most numbers. It's a matter that you get to decide. So before we start talking about the weighing process, let's go through what are the things that you put on to the scale. As you see, step out of the way. It's a problem with the podium being here, kind of blocking the view. Summer's just around the corner, and the folks at Mint Mobile have a hot take. Getting the summer bod is out and getting your savings bod is in. This spring and summer, we want skimpy wireless bills and fat wallets. And with premium wireless plans for just $15 a month, you can have both without breaking a sweat or the bank. I was paying way too much for wireless service and decided to give Mint Mobile a try. And I've been seriously impressed. The call quality is crystal clear, the data speeds are fast, and I'm saving hundreds of dollars. It's the easiest switch I ever made, and I didn't have to sacrifice a thing. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plans, dropping monthly bills and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text, delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. Ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month. This year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get your summer savings and shop premium wireless plans at mintmobile.com/RLRC. That's mintmobile.com/RLRC. Upfront payment of $45 for a 3-month, 5-gigabyte plan required. It's equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees are extra. See Mint Mobile for details.
Time is precious, and so are our pets. So time with our pets is extra precious. That's why we started Dutch. Dutch provides 24/7 access to licensed vets with unlimited virtual visits and follow-ups for up to 5 pets. You can message a vet at any time and schedule a video visit the same day. Our vets can even prescribe medication for many ailments, and shipping is always free. With Dutch, you'll get more time with your pets and year-round peace of mind when it comes to their vet care.
Aggravating factor is any fact, condition, or event attending the commission of a crime which increases its severity or enormity or adds to its injurious consequences, which is above and beyond the elements of the crime itself. What makes this crime bad? That goes on one side of the scale that you are asked to weigh. What goes on the other side of the scale is mitigating circumstances. Let me read that to you real quick. A mitigating circumstance is any fact, condition, or event which does not constitute a justification or excuse for the crime in question, but may be considered as extenuating circumstance in determining the appropriateness of the death penalty. These are the two sides of the scale. So when you start weighing, remember clearly this balance. Now, the next slide I show you, which is another part of the instructions, you are free to assign whatever moral or sympathetic value you deem to be appropriate for each and all of the factors that you are permitted to consider. That means you, as individuals, can look at the evidence, remember everything from the guilt phase, and weigh it in this particular case. And with that weighing process, make the appropriate determination the determination. These are the instructions the judge is going to give you. It's the law. It's what you have to do. Let's talk about what these factors are you get to weigh as aggravating and mitigating circumstances. The one that I talked to you about in the opening statement, which is circumstances of the crime, is also referred to as factor A. That's anything that involves the crime for which the defendant is here. In this particular case, the 2 murders. That is an aggravating circumstance. And we'll talk more about that. But remember factor A. The circumstances of the crime go on one side of the scale. Factor B, the presence or absence of other activity, criminal activity, talked about that. That's a mitigating factor because there is none in this particular case. Factor C, any prior felony convictions. Again, that's on the mitigating side. You heard there is no record. We will get into other factors. As the judge will tell you, D, which is whether or not the offense was committed while the defendant was under the influence of extreme mental or emotional disturbance. That one is not applicable. There is no evidence before you. E, whether or not the victim was a participant in the defendant's homicidal conduct or consented to the homicidal act. Again, that one is not applicable. F, whether there was a moral justification or extenuation of the conduct. That one is not applicable either. Whether or not the defendant acted under extreme duress or under substantial domination of another person. Again, not applicable. Whether or not at the time of the offense, the capacity of the defendant to appreciate the criminality of his conduct, or was he impaired as a result of mental disease or defect or effects of intoxication? Again, that's not applicable. There is no evidence. The age of the defendant at the time of the crime, you decide if that one's mitigating or not. Whether or not the defendant was an accomplice to the offense or his participation in the commission of the offense was relatively minor. Again, that one's not applicable. The last factor, kind of a catch-all factor, is referred to as factor K. And that's any other circumstance which extenuates the gravity of the crime, even though it's not a legal excuse for the crime, in any sympathetic or other aspects of the defendant's character, or anything that serves as a basis for less than death. Those are the legal factors that you are going to be asked to look at. Now, when we talk about putting them on the opposite side of the scale, remember the absence of a mitigating factor. One that's not applicable does not make it a mitigating factor. Again, whether it's mitigating or aggravating, which side of the scale do they go on? Now, talking about the legal stuff at this point in time, I want to talk about one other thing. Normally at this point in time, I wouldn't be talking about the defense side of the case. But as the judge told you yesterday, I only get one opportunity to talk to you. This is it. So I get to stand up and I get to tell you what the defense has shown and how it relates to this particular case, because I don't get back up and say, here's what they argued. Here's what it means. This is the last time you're going to hear from me. The last time you're going to hear me talk about this particular case. So I want to spend a few minutes. I want to go through and talk about what it was the defense has shown us. Let's talk about the 39 witnesses that we heard from the defense. 39 witnesses. Those 39 witnesses pretty much all said the same thing. The man who sits here, this convicted double murderer, this is not the Scott that I know. His high school vice principal, his golf coaches, relatives, assorted cast of characters, family and friends. They all pretty much said the same thing. They remember him as a young man. They remember him as this person. They remember him as a good golfer, sincere, respectful. They remember him doing the deeds that he did when he was young. They remember him coming from a loving home of privilege, that he loved to drive, that he was even-tempered. He never lost his cool, that he enjoyed spending his parents' money, and that he had all nice toys from those witnesses. It's a lot like Lee's story. Remember when Lee Peterson testified when he was young and poor and his mother would clean houses? And when he'd go over to one particular house where there was a young boy who had a cowboy costume. That's the Scott Peterson these people painted a picture for you. Some witnesses came in, they described him as an adult. Scott Peterson as an adult. And what'd they tell you? He's a good golfer. He's a good salesman. And I want you to think about that story. The salesman, golfer, where they came together with the witness. I believe his name was Mr. Beardsley. When he talked about Scott coming to a golf tournament, and Scott played in a golf tournament, he won. He donated his money to the pot. So that was a charitable thing to do. Or was it a kind of like Scott that we know? He's trying to make sales. He's trying to make a good in this area. I mean, that's what Mr. Beardsley was saying. And if all these farmers and salespeople thought he was a ringer, came down and beat them and took their money, do you think he would ever get a sale from them in the future? One thing that Mr. Beardsley said, and truer words were never spoken. Scott Peterson was a person who had a plan and he acted on it. He executed it. These witnesses, all those also described this Scott Peterson, the adult, being thoughtful and smart. In fact, a lot of witnesses said he was intelligent. Maybe intelligent enough to think that he could get away with something there. He was a matchmaker. You heard that from his friend, Miss Galloway. They described their relationship. And when you listen to that, what she described, it sounded a lot like the relationship that Scott had with Sean Sibley, the woman who ultimately set him up with Amber Fry. One thing they also said, he was absolutely honest. They painted a picture of Scott being pretty much perfect. And when he met Laci, they were the perfect couple. And they completed each other. That they were both full of life and loving. But unfortunately, they didn't know what you know. They didn't know the other side of Scott Peterson. They didn't know the side of Scott Peterson that you know, who isn't honest, who isn't loving, who isn't kind. Now, one of the other things to think about when you look at these two pictures up there is to see this behavior, what Scott Peterson did. Remember what Galloway said? That Scott always had flowers. We heard from a couple of other witnesses too. Remember how he set up this wonderful table for Sharon Rocha with all the flowers? Same behavior, the same planning, the same gentle kindness that they described that he did for Amber Fry the first night with the roses and the champagne and the strawberries. These individuals that testified for Scott, let's go through them just real briefly. Aaron Fritz, for example. You will remember him. He was the one that was, what would Scott do? The friend of his from elementary school, junior high, that kind of transition period. Known him for that time period. Friends with Scott. Didn't know anything about Amber. Didn't know anything about Scott cheating on his wife because he didn't know the real Scott. His other friend that came in, Shelley Ryman, same thing. She was telling you about Scott saying in December, "Oh, I'm happy to have a baby." Where at the same time, he's telling Amber Fry, "I don't want kids. Yours is enough for me. I want a vasectomy." That whole public and private Scott. You've heard from these tapes throughout the trial what the real Scott is. That he's a manipulator. That he's a liar. That these witnesses that came in, they are just more of his victims. More victims of Scott. Some of these witnesses, they came in and they told us about some of the family background and his character traits. The family was stoic. They didn't cry. They didn't wear their emotions on their sleeve. I think it is what Galloway said. Scott was only. He didn't know how to handle the situation. Those are the kinds of things that they heard. But once Amber Fry came out in the public and Scott wanted this to be about himself again, what did Scott do? What did Scott do? He played the part of a grieving husband, the great manipulator, the great fraud. Turn on the tears to play the part of the grieving husband. So these 39 witnesses that came before you and basically asked mercy for that man don't even know who they're talking about. To show you behind the scenes what he was doing shortly after that last phone call that was captured with one of the defense witnesses that they had on behalf of Scott, Janie Peterson. So we go from Scott, this grieving husband, you've heard this tape before, to the not so grieving Scott Peterson. And they play the tape, y'all. Not the caring, compassionate, gentle, grieving husband, Scott. I play this one because it sets up the next tape, which is a reminder to you how Scott Peterson lied and manipulated the people during the time that Laci was missing. That's a circumstance of the crime for you to consider. Now, remember, this is a phone call to someone that worked at the volunteer center and played the tape. Need to get those signs? Somebody who was out there looking for his wife. I have been in grief counseling. Man, who lies to people who are trying to help? That's how Private Scott is. He lies, he fools, he manipulates. He is not the person that deserves your sympathy. Now, speaking of the people that were out there looking, remember this? Candlelight Vigil. New Year's Eve. Look at that picture. Brent Roach described it. That's the defendant's mother up there on the stage. He couldn't get up there, but he let his sick mother go up and ask the community for support, ask for help finding his wife while he's down in the audience. And how to repay his own mother? And y'all, then they play the recording of him on the phone of Amber Fry while this is going on. He laughed. He laughed at his own mother. He laughed at the people that were helping him. He laughed at everyone. And when you look at that scale, when you balance these things, there's no mitigating factor big enough, heavy enough, powerful enough to take these things away. Even with all that, his family and his mother asked for your sympathy, and they begged for his life. Now, as the judge will instruct you, sympathy for a defendant's family is not a matter that a capital jury can consider in mitigation. It's not something that comes into play unless family members may offer testimony of the impact of an execution on them. And if by doing so, they illuminate some positive quality of the defendant's background or character. So when you think about all of these 39 witnesses, many of them are not family members. And you think about what they told you about how hard this would be on them. Did it illuminate any positive character trait of the defendant? No. You've heard it over and over again. Well, if you execute him, it will kill Lee. It will kill Jackie. It will kill Janie. Here is the person responsible is right there. Right there. That's the one that's responsible. The law says you have to follow the instructions. So all that stuff about what it would mean to Lee and Jackie, you can't consider, because there is no redeeming value to a man that laughs at his mother. One other thing. Many of those witnesses, they got up here and, they sat on the witness stand and they kind of looked you in the eye and they said, you are wrong. He's innocent. He's not guilty. You have to ask yourself, why are they doing that? Why are these witnesses doing that? Are they trying to make you doubt your resolve in this case? Do you think maybe they are trying to make you feel guilty? Don't feel guilty for doing your job. Don't feel guilty for doing the right thing. Don't feel guilty for him. They're trying to create some lingering doubt. Don't let them. You did the right thing. Now is the time to do the right thing again. Don't be manipulated. One of the other things, since I don't get up here again and respond, another argument that's kind of common besides this lingering doubt is, well, he's not the worst of the worst. Think about that for a second. First of all, the instructions that you would get from the judge would tell you not to make comparison to others. Again, you would get an argument that you don't need to compare him to others. And when you start thinking about whether Scott Peterson deserves the death penalty, ask yourself this. When the man carries out murder of his pregnant wife and unborn child, can you think of a more heinous crime? Would it be more heinous if he was a stranger? No. Scott Peterson is the worst of the worst because he's the kind of person that lures you in, the kind of person that you can trust, that can manipulate and fool you. No one ever sees it coming. The circumstances of the crime, that trust that was violated. Let's talk about that now. Y'all, this is fucking fire. Okay. This is what exactly I've been telling you as it goes along. So far, this closing by the prosecution is not Scorched. And it's only going to get better. And obviously we got to do another episode because it's long, but I'm trying to emphasize my voice because I've sat in all these murder trials. Oh, they trying. You can call it an act. You can call it whatever you want to, but I've seen many a prosecutor cry during this part of the death penalty phase. You know why? Because they're good people who are trying to bring justice, right? And now you're at the ultimate justice phase, and this case means something to them. Is there hollering and theatrics? Sure it is. Absolutely. Is it not necessary? No, it is necessary. And basically he's saying everything I've been telling you how in the death penalty phase, how the defense scorched it. 39 witnesses. Y'all listen to me tell you about, and they don't amount to a fucking hill of beans. Nothing. And other than defense lawyers doing what defense lawyers do. And I tell you one thing, and it's been proven over the years by Mark Garagos, who's still defending, and even like the Menendez brothers today, who executed their parents in cold blood. He's had every high profile case since Scott Peterson. And he's a fine lawyer, defense lawyer. If you're a fuck up, if you're famous, if you got a shit ton of money, if you could put him on the front line of Nancy Grace or CNN or Fox News or whatever you watch. So I'm going to stop it. We will continue again, and we're almost done. But I think this is probably the best part of all these episodes that I've done. And I love and appreciate each and every one of y'all. I want to thank you again for listening, liking, and sharing. Real Life, Real Crime Original Confidential Informant is coming as soon as I finish this. Hashtag Justice for Haley. Oh, Lord, sweet baby Jesus. That meeting is the day before you're getting this episode, unless you're a patron or a convict. And so we'll let y'all know next week how that goes. And fingers crossed, but don't stop calling. Don't stop calling and texting, because squeaky wheel gets the grease. And that is proven. We've done it before. We're in the process of doing it again. And it's you lifers who actually care about justice that are making it happen. LOPA, Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency. God, love them. Love them, love them. And they're a nonprofit. That's why I close every Saturday show with them. Recently, Kevin Kool-Aid Garrett and I celebrity bartended at Walk-On's Restaurant Bistro in Zachary, Louisiana. Walk-On's is a fine, fine organization. And the tips that we made, Kevin and I made from the lifers that came in, the tips that we made, Walk-On's matched it. And unfortunately, the last 3 weeks of my daddy dying and everything, and me staying with my mama, they've been wanting to do the presentation of the check and the big check, for social media and everything else. And we're going to do that. I just haven't got over there yet, but I want to thank them again. That being Walk-On's. I want to thank Kevin Kool-Aid Garrett, my boy, and for helping set it up and do it. We raised some good money. LOPA saves lives. Become an organ donor. Please, please. I can promise you one thing. My daddy was an organ donor, and not that anything he had could be used, but a lot of times it's a thought that counts, right? And you don't have to be a lifer from Louisiana for LOPA to help you become an organ donor. You can be a lifer from Switzerland. Go to lopa.org, take 2 minutes, fill out the questionnaire, give the gift of life and sight and all the great stuff that they do. All right. And shout out to Lori Steele, LOPA's spokesperson for coming out to Walk-On's. And we signed up organ donors. Way more important than the money we raise are the people that she signed up that night to be organ donors. Because maybe one of them one day are going to save a ton of lives. And I'm Woody Overton, your host of Real Life, Real Crime, the podcast. And until next time, or ever, don't let me catch you down on Murder Bayou. Peace.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney prior to or during any question. If you can't afford one, the court will appoint one for you. Do you understand your rights?
And the wolf is at your door. You're running over, that's for sure. He already knows all about you. Cut you down on Murder Bayou. Now you better walk the line.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Stop by Sherwin-Williams and get 30% off select paints and stains May 2nd through the 12th. It's the perfect time to transform your space with color. Refresh your home inside and out with colors that make every space feel brand new. From cozy interiors to stunning exteriors, we've got the perfect shade for your next project. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Click the banner to learn more. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Member Week is here at Lowe's. Don't miss your chance to get up to 40% off hundreds of items like paint, stain, tools, flooring, and more. Shop our exclusive deals happening in-store and online from May 8th through May 14th. Not a member? Join My Lowe's Pro Rewards for free today and get ready to save more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.